Hello again. On to another fresh from the theater review. I just got back from the cinema after seeing Bad Boys, Ride or Die. Made at a much quicker pace than the usual amount of years that go between Bad Boys movies. It's fucking crazy to think that the last Bad Boys film came out just right before the COVID pandemic hit, and it was one of the last movies I saw in the cinema before the world just went all tits up. And I remember really loving the third film, Bad Boys for Life. It was probably my favorite of the few films I saw that year, 2020. For me, the Bad Boys films are interesting. Unlike some franchises where they start out great and then get worse with each ongoing film, the opposite kind of happened for me. I enjoyed but didn't love the first Bad Boys. I had a lot of issues with it. The second one, I enjoyed a lot more, but still had a few flaws. One of them being that it was almost 3 hours long, which is a bit much for a buddy cop film. And then the third one came, and that is hands down my favorite of this franchise. And as for the new one, Ride or Die, I did really like this movie. It brought back everything that I've enjoyed, particularly from the last film. It was not better than Bad Boys for Life, but it was a decent entry. Like, this is less Bad Boys for Life, but it's more on par with maybe Bad Boys 2. Although, even then, I think it's still a bit better than that one in some areas. But we have Will Smith and Martin Lawrence back, and this is the first big film for Will after the whole slapping shit. And Martin Lawrence, I think he did like a horror film in between these two films, but he hasn't really been doing much. And this movie just, again, emphasizes that Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett are fucking brothers to the end. Or as this film says, soulmates. And I'll get into that very quickly. Will Smith, he's back doing his thing. And again, the Mike Lowry character continues to evolve, like being a young badass to being an older badass, but getting a bit more of a stronger look at life. And Marcus, like, he was already kind of slowing down in the third one, but in this film, and this was a reasonably big shock, and it happens pretty early, so I'm not going to put this in the spoiler section, but at the beginning of Bad Boys Ride or Die, Mike Lowry is getting fucking married. Oh yeah, he's met his true love, and sadly it's not Rita from the last film, played by Halo Nunez. I suck at pronouncing names. And it's a nice wedding. Marcus gets his usual emotional self, giving the toast. And then, I guess, playing in well with Martin Lawrence's current physical state, he has a heart attack, and he goes into a coma where we get a very trippy near-death experience scene. And it's interesting to see this, knowing about Martin Lawrence's actual health problems and how he actually did go into a coma at one point over 20 years ago. But after getting out of this coma, Marcus suddenly has a new outlook on life and the universe, I guess. Like, he gets very zen, I suppose, and gets very, I don't know, he really starts to look at things in a philosophical sense, and Mike's reaction, Will Smith's reaction, is pretty much all of us. We're just sitting here thinking, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? And then we get a real dark twist where the bad guys this time around involve corrupt police and government officials who, for various reasons, try to tarnish the good name of the sadly passed Captain Howard. And I remember that was the main thing about that film that didn't work for me, killing off Captain Howard. And I saw that Joe Pantoliano was going to come back in this film, which confused me because I'm like, he fucking died. How are you gonna bring him back? And for a moment I wondered, were they gonna pull they fake his death? But no, he's still dead. But what they do is, first, when Marcus has his near-death experience, he gets a vision of Captain Howard, which that whole part was very surreal in a way I'm not sure worked, but it was cool to see him. And then Mike and Marcus discover some videos that the captain left behind for them in the event of his death, which only took 4 fucking years for them to get it, but we see him talking to them and telling them who these people are that are trying to tarnish his name, and just what they have to do to take him down. And it connects again to Mike's illegitimate son from the last film, the cartel mama's boy Armando, played again by Jacob Scipio, who seems to be putting a legit effort into righting his wrongs, but it's still a little rough to look at him knowing that he's the one who fucking killed Captain Howard. And then Marcus and Mike and Armando almost get killed and survive the hit, but now they've been framed and they have to go all together on the run, working together off the books to try and clear not only the captain's name, but their own. And they don't know who to trust. There's only a few specific people that they can go to. So yeah, the film has a bit of a mystery element to it. There's a lot of twists and turns, and I liked it. I like that aspect of it. It was a lot of fun, and this film brought so much that I love with this franchise. The back and forth between Will and Martin is still fucking solid. Without them, this franchise never would have survived, and I remember there was at one point talks of a possible spin-off called Bad Girls, but it looks like that's not going to happen, and I'm not sure this franchise, again, could work without them. And I had the unique experience of seeing this film in the cinema all by myself, which is not a sign it's doing bad, because from what I read, this film is just breaking box office records. So I think it's all good. But being alone, I get the opportunity to just laugh as hard as I want and not worried about getting a side eye from some asshole. But it was fun, and I loved a lot of the comedy. Some parts were a little much, but I'll get to that in a sec. And of course, the action. How do I describe the action? It is some of the most elaborate sequences that they've done for this franchise, and they've got 10 times the budget they had with the first film. And while Michael Bay definitely has a style with his action, the stuff in the first film wasn't my favorite because the editing was just, it went by too fast. It was hard to appreciate, but here we see everything. There are so many goddamn elaborate sequences, and I always write down my pros, and the stuff that has to stand out would be the scene where Mike, Marcus, and Armando, they are almost killed while in a helicopter, and the helicopter is going down, spiraling. This sequence is just mind-blowing and so fucking elaborate. You will just sit there wondering how they did it, like what's real, what's CGI, and there's also, as always, it wouldn't be a Bad Boys movie if there wasn't a kick-ass chase scene. And we get a grand car chase scene with the three of them in a van where there's fire, there's gangs, there's agents shooting at them. There's also, this is a small action scene, but I was really impressed by how elaborate this was. The Rita character, she's in an elevator with this guy, which I won't give away at the moment because it would be a spoiler, but she's in the elevator fighting this guy, and it was pretty cool, very stylized, and yeah, just the action was top notch. This is probably the best made action of the franchise. Amazing cinematography. I saw this behind the scenes clip of Will Smith running around with a gun and a camera strapped to him. And when you see that scene in the film, it's impressive just how well that it came out, how well they were able to do it. As for the prose I've written, I thought, while it is still sad that Joe Pantoliano is really dead in this universe, it was cool how they got him back. And some of the stuff that led to his death and this attempt to sully his good name ties into some events. I think, I might be getting a fact wrong, but some things do tie into the events of Bad Boys 2, which I'll appreciate. Like, they aren't just referencing the last film, they are referencing the earlier entries, and this is some stuff that I really enjoyed. Alexander Ludwig and Vanessa Hudgens, they're back as Dorn and Kelly, and I honestly think that they really shined in this film. Their characters, like he's the buff tech nerd, she's the cute badass, and they just work well together. Like, they are part of the circle with Mike and Marcus, and they contribute a lot to this film. I really dug them. They were very cool and very likable. And Alexander Ludwig gets some pretty funny lines. Another character that I was so fucking happy to see come back was Reggie, the boyfriend from Bad Boys 2, now husband to Marcus's daughter in the third film, and here, he's still, like, they make it clear he's a U.S. Marine now. He still acts timid around Marcus. Marcus seems to still like giving him shit, but in this film, Reggie, we see that he is a legit Marine. He protects the family and earns Marcus's respect. And I was just so happy to see it. He's come a long way from having Will Smith wave a gun in his face singing "Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Nigga." Although, they do make a pretty cool callback joke to that line. And just to show that the series hasn't lost its edge, even in this modern, oversensitive era. There's a scene where Mike and Marcus, while they're on the run, need clothes. So they go to this trailer park and steal some clothes like hanging around. And then the owners come out and they're like pretty unkempt white boys who have a big Confederate flag on their trailer. And they call them boys. And Marcus screams that they're not stealing, that they're wearing like this is his shirt. And then Will's like, look down at your shirt. He looks down and it says, purebred white boy. Just, that was perfect. And then we see Will is wearing a Reba McEntire t-shirt. And the rednecks force them to try to sing a Reba song. They can't think of any. So they just start humming the Bad Boys theme as they do, trying to make it sound country. And once they make their escape, we hear an actual cover of the Bad Boys song by Reba McEntire. It was just, the whole thing was just excellent, perfect, just fucking perfect. And just to show I'm fair, I did write down a few of the cons I had with the film, and again, I really like this, but to me, Bad Boys for Life is still the best entry in this series. The first thing was the near-death experience, which was just surreal and trippy, and we've never seen stuff like this I don't think we've ever really even seen dreams in the Bad Boys franchise. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Marcus, he could get a bit too, like, the character, I had issues with him in the first film. In the second film, he had some really fucking annoying parts, but I enjoyed him in the third, and here he's still better, but they gave him some really bizarre moments that were just weird for the sake of being weird, it seems. I'm with Mike all the way. I'm just like, oh, if I was there. Although Mike, he's given some odd moments too, mostly in the form of having weird random panic attacks, which hinder his ability to fight or shoot. It seems to stem from him now being married, but I didn't get it. It just felt dumb, like it didn't really serve any purpose. It wasn't really that developed. I didn't get it. And Paola Nunes as Rita, I fucking loved her in Bad Boys for Life. I thought she was an amazing third addition to the group. But here, she is sadly wasted. She doesn't really do anything significant until the last act. And by that point, I'm kind of in the too little, too late camp. Like, this character, who was just awesome, is just downgraded big time to now being higher up, not really in the field character, and all she does is look sad or kind of mopey at times. And while the wife, the new wife of Mike, Christine, she's a nice character, but honestly, I really was hoping, because the last film set it up big time, I was really hoping that Mike and Rita would end up together. And now for something that's probably going to divide a lot of people. Rhea Seehorn as Captain Howard's daughter, who is a U.S. Marshal, and she is a bit bitter toward, like, she's known, apparently, like, we've never seen her before, but they revealed the captain had a family in the last film, so I can go with him having a daughter here, and she's a bit bitter towards Mike, understandably, because his son, Armando, killed her father, but she's known him and Marcus her whole life, and while she has legit reasons to be mad, I don't think the character was that well written. They just made her like a secondary, like, not villain, but kind of an antagonist to Mike and Marcus. She ends up hunting them after they've been framed, and the way they wrote her, they just made this character come off like an unhinged, dumb cunt. A real waste of Rhea Seehorn's talent, because if you've seen her on Better Call Saul, then you know, she is an incredible actress. And now for the spoilers, warts and all. The villains in this film are reasonably good. They're not on par with the villains of the third film, but I definitely put them in the Bad Boys 2 category of villains, where not 100% memorable, but they definitely have some good moments. They are miles above the villain of the first film, whose name I still can't and don't really feel like bothering to look up to remember. One of them is Rita's new boyfriend, fiance, it's a bit unclear, played by Ion Gruffud. I hate pronouncing names. He's a two-faced typical politician who is secretly working with the main bad guy, Jack McGrath, played by Eric Dane, a former federal agent who turned corrupt and started working with the cartel, I believe, and had a huge vendetta against Captain Howard that played a part in his death. And he is menacing and he is goddamn brutal. Like, his opening scene has him murdering a guy in cold blood and killing his mistress, making it look like she killed herself. I mean, this was quite a way to start off the film. He's a strong, threatening presence throughout, and they gave him a pretty cool and like worthy death scene. And Ian Crawford, he himself, like, the final action scene takes place on a abandoned alligator amusement park. So, you know it's gonna get juicy. And as you may expect, Ian Crawford, his character, dies by getting mauled up by a fucking gator. It is just, I just was like, yeah! And as for any spoilers in the con department, the Fletcher character from the first two movies, he's back. It's cool to see him, played by John Sally, and they kill him off pretty quickly. And while he wasn't a huge character in the first two films, after Captain Howard, I'm like, do we really need to kill off these old favorites? And Armando, they definitely gave him a redemption arc that I think was pretty decent. However, the way it ends, it has him being let go, like kind of forgiven by Rhea Seehorn after he saves her daughter, Captain Howard's granddaughter, and Mike, he lets him go like on the run as a fugitive. And I don't know, I think it would have felt more better if like they hadn't done that, because it just seems weird. Kind of a redemption, but these characters kind of going out of character by letting him go. I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way in a sense. But nonetheless, it ends with Mike and Marcus barbecuing, bickering like soulmates, as Marcus called them during his initial Zen enlightenment. And after seeing Reggie kick ass, they decide to not get in his way as far as cooking chicken on the grill goes. And Reggie's just like, yeah. He gives a perfect smirk, knowing that they have his respect and maybe fear him a little. If there's anything else I can say before I give my final rating, it's that I read that Tasha Smith was replacing Teresa Randall as Teresa Burnett, Marcus's wife, and I thought she did fine. It's been a few years since I've watched the last Bad Boys movie, so can't remember a ton. Like, the character was always just in a few scenes, but the character did well. Like, she wasn't quite as imposing as she was last time, and overall, I didn't mind the change. And the directors, the directing duo team of Adil El Arbi and Bael Falah, this was their big film after their Batgirl movie was canceled, which I still feel was a cunt-rape move by Warner Brothers. I'm glad to say that they still know how to do a good action movie, and just like the last one, they give Michael Bay a cameo. Not quite as awesome as the wedding MC he played in the third film, but you gotta wonder if this could be the same guy. Like, it's brief, but if you know what Michael Bay looks like, you'll recognize him. And that's about it. I like this film a lot. If the last movie was an 8 out of 10, which I believe was the rating I gave it, then this movie is a 7 out of 10. It's got its problems, but it gives you a good time and you'll enjoy it extremely well. It will quell your summer action thirst, and it'll make you laugh very much. that's all I have to say. Hope you enjoyed this vlog, and I will see you again, hopefully soon.